Welcome to Repair Shop Reckoning. The race is zero. Today we have Lincoln Brown, owner of LCB Detailing in Howell, Michigan. He's also my son. This is part one. All right, Lincoln, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
How are you, good, Dad?
Yeah. Don't call me Dad. We're trying to be professional here. So I thought this would be a kind of a cool episode during the holidays and stuff like that. This is going to be out in several weeks. We do it bi-weekly podcast, but I want everybody to hear your story of becoming a business owner, how you started, all the trials that you had going on with all the problems you had that most people don't say out loud. Most people are like, yep, I'm a business owner. I just opened my business one day and kicked ass and never looked back, which we all know is bullshit, right? Because we all know some days we're up here and other days we're down here. It just depends on what's going on during the days, right? We have unhappy customers. We do our best. Some people you just can't make happy. So let's start out with, how did you decide to become a mobile detailer? Or actually a detailer?
So it started from you, actually.
Oh, thank you.
You were like, hey, you want to clean my cars every week for $100 a week? And I think at the time you had like 4 or 5 cars. So I started doing that, and then it kind of just turned more into a business from there. I kind of just slowly progressed. And you asked me just clean my cars, and I went on TikTok. I saw videos in the past of people actually having a business doing detailing. So I said, well, maybe I should start, reaching out to other people and posting in group chats. And I posted in a group chat, got like 50 replies. And then remember that one day I had like 4 cars in our driveway. Because at the time I was, I think I was 15. So
14, yeah. Well, yeah, you did it for a year before you got your driver's license. It was driving us nuts. We couldn't even park our own driveway when we got home.
Yeah, so I had people, I was only drop-off only. I didn't even think about going mobile at the time. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it started. It started from you asking for me to clean your cars, and then it just turned into a business from there.
I remember when you would so I had 4 or 5 cars. So I know obviously I had pickup trucks, but I know I had the Mustang, the Roush Mustang, and I probably had the Camaro, right?
Right.
I remember you used to do everything with one brush.
Yeah, I was a one brush guy at the start. I was a one brush guy, most definitely.
Armor All was the frickin' world. Armor All was your world.
I remember my first way of advertising was I went to all of our neighbors with literal printout pictures of before and afters, and I stapled them together, and I was like, hey, if you need detailing, here you go. They were all grainy photos, and it was funny looking back at it.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like everything starts somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You look at some of my advertisements at the first years in business at like, not Garrett's, because Garrett's has been around since 1958, but Motor City Truck Collision, which was carried at cranes. Some of our ads, I'm like, look at them. I'm like, how the hell would anybody want to buy? Like, I remember one time we couldn't get anybody to look at ads, and that's when Craigslist was really big. So I put an ad out there. We had all these cranes, and you have a yellow crane in a magazine. Everybody else is selling yellow cranes, right? Broderson cranes, IC20s, 35s, 80s, and 200s. So I'm like telling your mom, how do I stand out? How do I make my ad different than everybody else? So I had the bright idea I was going to hire a midget and dress him up in a construction outfit and put a little helmet on him and have a little midget jump from crane to crane and take pictures of them. So I put an ad on Facebook, me being oblivious to, they like to be called little people. I'm like, yo, I need a midget for some photo shoots. I got so much flaming back from the midget crowd.
I never heard this story.
No. So I'm like, well, I told your mom, well, fuck, maybe like I should tell him, make your complaint to the Lollipop Guild. I don't know what to tell you, fuckers, who wants to take a picture. She's like, don't.
Did the ad do good?
No, I could never get anybody to do it. So we ran that company, for 4 or 5 years. We did really good and stuff like that. And then the economy got better. The election happened and people started buying new cranes. So we ended up morphing it into Motor City Truck Collision. We already had the paint booth, the building, and everything from painting the cranes, all the equipment. So we just started doing truck body work.
Okay. And
that's how it morphed. And that's kind of what happened to you. You kind of like morphed into, a little punk kid doing it. And then you kind of decide, I don't know, when did you decide to go mobile?
right when I hit 16. I think you lended me that trailer, that red trailer, and I pretty much just threw everything in it. I remember,
Literally.
yeah, literally just threw everything in it. And actually, before that, you took me down to Waterford because one of Mom's friends reached out.
Oh, Denise, yep.
Yep, at the worm farm, and I took our air compressor from our garage, and it wasn't working, so I had to figure out how to use air, and I had no air actually, so I had to figure out ways to get around not having air at the details. And you drove from Howell to the back end of Waterford, and then to Farmington to Garrett's, and then once I was done, you had to wait around at Garrett's, then you drove back to not Farmington, Waterford, and then you drove back to Howell. So yeah, you've definitely been a good help along the way for sure.
I'm a friend of the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was sitting there thinking, my God, like driving over there and doing all that stuff. But you're like, yeah, I'm going to do 5 cars today. I get back to you, like, holy shit, this second car is so much dog hair.
Well, yeah, it was my first time battling dog hair. I didn't have the tools. I had no clue.
Right.
So
you didn't have the information to make the job.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember bringing you back the next day.
Yep.
You were over in that corner and stuff like that. I remember all your stuff was in a pile when we opened the door because you just put everything in the mobile trailer.
Yeah, it was like actually my first day of working, so it was like pretty taxing. So I was just like, fuck this, threw it all in there and went on with my day.
I remember that. So then, after that, we decided that you needed to organize the trailer a little bit, but you still don't have your driver's license. You already have the cart. You don't even have a horse. You're like, okay, I'm a mobile detailer as long as my dad drives me around. Like, think about that. Like, there's a meme.
Yeah.
I'm a mobile detailer. My dad's got to wait till my dad gets home from work to drive me over. But you were already preparing to deliver way back before you even had your driver's license.
What about the time we tried to find the water tank? Or we had to find the barrel. We were in Tractor Supply for probably 2 hours.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out because they didn't have the right fitting, so we had to create a dipstick into that barrel.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I've been a truck mechanic, car mechanic, motorcycle mechanic, whatever, my whole life, and I had never dealt with anything like, okay, we got to make a trailer self-contained with a water tank that a power washer pulls out, and I was a gas guy, so I got an education on
electric pressure washers.
The gas, I said, okay, you need a gas power washer, and so we bought a 55-gallon drum because we couldn't find any lay-down tanks readily available. We could have ordered it, but you didn't have that much money.
No.
So we went to Tractor Supply and we bought that blue tank. And I'm like, all right, well, we could buy this fitting. I could get a piece of PEX, put the dip tube in there, screw the fitting on it, put the hose on it, and then your power washer can pull out of that. How hard can that be? Well, that didn't work because the power washer didn't have enough suction. So now we have to put a pump. So we go to Harbor Freight to buy a high-quality pump. So we bought a pump to the top of it, so the pump pumps to the power washer. All right, we're good, right? You're washing wheels. You let go of the wand to wash the wheels. You go do it. No air. We're like, what the hell's going on? I didn't know. Well, we go over to PM Technologies in Wixom. I do. Talk to the guys like, well, there's no bypass on the store-bought Home Depot power washers. And if you look at your earlier Facebook post, there's a picture of you buying that Ryobi power washer, like Lincoln buying his first power washer. It was that gas 3,400 PSI, which we know we don't need that much pressure now to wash because it just causes all kinds of soap problems and everything else. And we realized there's no bypass. So when you let go of the trigger, the water just sits there and pounds on the pistons, evaporates, and it causes air and overheats the ceramic rings in the power washer. So you're like, yeah, I told you. All the other detailers, say you have to go electric. And I'm like, electric sucks. Like, that's when I was like against electric cars, which I still am, Shane. You love Teslas.
I think I have a monthly Tesla. I get to drive it. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, and I imagine if you asked him, he'd let you drive it whenever.
Yeah.
But so we ended up getting you we went back to Home Depot and got the Ryobi double throwdown detailer special for $79.
Yep, it was that 1,800 pressure washer. Yep.
And then you use that for you're like, would you like to extend a warranty? You're like, yeah, sure.
Might as well, right?
Right.
It was my first time buying an electric, so I think it gave out on me a month and a half in.
Yeah.
Took it back, swapped it out, and then I bought the warranty on that one again. And then I did it until I had enough money to buy an actually well-graded pressure washer.
Yeah. And then we decided that we had the pressure washer situation fixed. You decided, like, the thing with you is you're a lot like me in the younger years. You're like, all right, Dad, hey, by the way, I just went and ordered all 85 different things. Can you put them in the trailer? You have about 30 minutes to get it all worked because I have a job. I'm like, Lincoln, you're pissing me off. Like, remember, you pull all them reels. I go in the barn, you have all the reels out of the boxes. You're like, we got to put these reels together. And I bought this, what was that container, or that bench with the light on top of it?
Oh, from Harbor Freight.
From Harbor Freight. We screwed that to the ground and put everything on it. You drove down the road and it fell apart.
Yeah, I hit the dirt road because the Clyde Road was blacked off, and I went down the dirt road, and my air compressor and something else heavy on the bottom. It was just the normal plywood. It wasn't the one from Home Depot. So when I went down the road, it bounced up and down, and the weight of the air compressor just went right through the floor. So.
And how did we end up with a lay down water tank and then plumbing the trailer with the rubber hoses? We got rid of the 55-gallon drum.
Yeah, it was just taking too much. Yeah, we ended up getting a 55-gallon, or no, what was it? 250. Remember the overkill water tank?
Yeah, you got your first truck.
Yeah, my Colorado.
Yeah, Terran Fry comes over like, I think that's 100. He's like, that's like a 250-gallon tank. You can't put that onto that truck. It's gonna smash it. Remember that?
Yeah, so that was in the middle of the 55 drum and my water tank. Now it was just taking up too much room. So we ended up going to Tractor Supply again, finding that one that they had. Was it at their store, or was it at a different store?
I think that was at the Howell store. That's like a 45, right?
No, it's a 65.
65.
Yeah, so we ended up getting that, and then we went to Home Depot after that, and then Lowe's to get all the piping, and then I seen a different
pump.
Different pump. I ended up ordering that, and that was way better than
water
the
on
Harbor Freight.
demand.
Yep. It wasn't, so the Harbor Freight one would constantly run when you plug it in, and you would have to prime it every time.
Yeah.
So every time you went to go use it, like start up your pressure washer, you have to pour water in it and then screw it back on. Now with this other pump that I have, it's meant for RVs, so it's just on demand, and you don't have to prime it.
Yep, and we put that right by the tank.
Yep.
And then I'm like, all right, I went and I'm like, we need to buy packs. We need to do this. We're going to do it right. You're like, no, I don't have time to do that. We just need to put rubber hose. And I'm like, Lincoln. You're like, nope, we'll do it this winter. So we hung rubber hoses, and that ended up working all season.
Yeah.
And the only problem you had this season was your generator kept quitting.
Yep.
The carbon monoxide sensor was going bad, right?
No, it was, so on the Predator generators, the carbon monoxide sensor would just automatically turn the generator off when it thinks that there's carbon monoxide in the trailer or in an enclosed area. So I went on YouTube and I figured out how to take it out, and then we ended up taking the sensor out.
We had to bypass the wiring.
Yep.
I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah. So here we are. Now this year, you've become pretty good friends with a mutual friend. I mean, I know Kurt, minimal, but Shane knew him a lot, and he really likes you. So he's going to redo your trailer with you. And we ended up getting some shelving and stuff from some trucks we scrapped at the collision shop. So you're going to end up redoing your trailer for the fourth time, basically.
Yeah.
Because you're running around too much.
Yeah.
And, you know, having a trailer with a ramp on, I don't care what it is for detailing, is tough.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess not really if you start thinking about stepping up into a trailer over and over again, too.
Right.
I mean, so tell me what things that you think that you've done to make yourself quicker and more efficient. Because efficiency is all about time, right? Time is money.
Mm-hmm. Definitely practice makes perfect. So, like, for instance, when I first started out, I would take like 7 hours on a job.
I'm like, dude, they paid you $40.
I know. So, every time I gradually got quicker and quicker, learned a process. I made myself go through a process. At first, I didn't have a process. I would be like, okay, we're gonna do the wheel. Oh wait, that looks dirty. Let's go over there. But now I do one side to the back, to the other side, and then to the front, and then the trunk. It's a process. So when you have a process laid down, it's much, much easier to cut down your time spent on a car. So that's one big way.
Yeah, so that's kind of funny you say the word process. If you read your text message from me the other day about not punching in at work, what did I say?
It's a process. If you don't follow the process, you don't get paid.
Exactly. That's a true statement, right? And you actually brought that up with your sandblasting that trailer.
Yep.
Jim was like, so Lincoln, you're like, that looks really good, but you're like, oh, look over there.
Yeah,
Like,
and then I don't go back.
you don't go back. So, I mean, processes are in place in any business for a specific reason. People don't know it. They used to always laugh at me at Garrett's because I would sit there on intake of vehicles. Sometimes we get 10 or 15 vehicles in a day, right? And you're bound to not ask for the keys at some point in the transaction. When the
It's
customer
just the nature of life.
Right. So my thing was, okay, you ask them for their information, you type it in the computer, you go out, you take your pictures, get the mileage and everything. At that point, when you're at the screen, it'll say print key tag. You print a key tag. Why do you print a key tag? Why are you so worried about printing a key tag? If you print a key tag, what are you going to ask for next from the customer?
The keys.
The keys. How many times have we got to the point when we went to work on a vehicle and go, I don't have no keys. Oh, shit, I forgot to ask the customer, and it cost money because time is money.
Yep.
And that's why processes are so important in any business, and most people don't realize processes are going to get you. And processes, and another thing is policies. Mm-hmm. You have to write policies in business. You know, the policy is you have to break down your cardboard boxes before you put them in the dumpster. Why? Because boxes that are not broken down take up room. The dumpster gets filled up faster. It takes, a third of the capacity of the dumpster, and you're wasting money type of thing, Policies, right?
Yep.
Go on. I started flapping my lips.
Yeah, so it was just the process, and then just learning more, having more intake on things, like, how you had the electric pressure washer. I just kept on researching and just figuring out what was most efficient for other people, and then I tried that out, and if it didn't work, I went back to the drawing board and picked another thing to figure out what was efficient for me. So,
what do you think when you go ahead, like you have processes, and now I know it because I listen to you or hear you talk all the time to customers. The very first thing, walk me through one of your processes. I call you or I text you as a brand new customer off an ad. What do you do to protect yourself with pictures, verbiage, contract signing stuff? Because nowadays you have to CYA, cover your ass all the time, right? So walk me through a process.
Let's say you contact me, text message. I automatically ask them for their name, get them on a phone call. It's a lot easier to convert them to a lead on a phone call rather than text. So once I get them on a phone call, I ask what they're specifically looking for. If they're looking for interior, then I recommend, does it have any odor, stains, pet hair? What does it have in it? How long has the car been, kind of dirty, basically, just to figure out what package is best for them. And then after that, I say, okay, our next step would be to get some pictures from you, and I can get you an exact price. And I also ask them, where are you located? Can I have your exact address? That way I can calculate my transportation fee. And that's what gives me the price. And then once they send me the pictures, I call them back, and I end up fully booking them by saying, oh, yeah, we have an opening tomorrow at this time. And they're like, oh, sweet. This guy's open. He has more time than others, so let's get it done. And not everybody's going to convert to a lead, but you take your wins and your losses. So,
how many employees do you have?
2.
2 employees, and you're fully insured, and tell me about all that.
So it was from you. I am fully insured, and I am fully licensed. We went to your lawyer. He handled it all. I believe we used him for license, right? And then we went to your...
He follows for the state of Michigan. He filed the license, the LLC license. Then he had to do the Corporate Transparency Act at that time, in place.
Yep. And then I went to your other insurance, the agency, and in Canton. And I had them. They do my insurance. I pay them annually. So they do my insurance. So I'm fully insured, fully licensed.
And you have workman's comp. So you have workman's comp and liability insurance as a 70-year-old. And that was something that I was like, you have to do. You might as well get ready. When you start your business, you might as well do all your costs and protect yourself right up front. Versus most guys say, okay, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to pay all myself back before I start paying myself, which I disagree with that a little bit because you have to live when you're starting a business, right? Or you have to get some money out of it. And if you're pushing yourself towards a goal, your short term, your long term goals, you should pull your money out of your company to pay yourself. I'm not saying if you make 100, pull 100 out, but if you made 100, pull 20 out, right? So that way the business is used to sustaining a payroll, paying you, right?
Fair.
For you, it wasn't my business. You're like, what should I do? I said, well, my thought is you need to reinvest to build your business, right? So it's kind of like I say one thing, but you did another. I had you do another thing, but we wanted to reinvest because one thing with you, I'm like, listen, 100% of 100% owned equipment doesn't get repoed from the bank. You didn't go get a bank loan for your equipment,
Right.
then miss a payment and the bank comes and get you. I remember you had everything paid off and you had a really good stellar summer your first year and you said, I'm just worried about going bankrupt, Dad. How do I know if I'm going bankrupt? I
Yep.
said, well, you remember?
Yeah.
Remember that conversation? What was going through your mind to ask me that question?
I think it was after summer and we were approaching the winter, and I heard from other detailers that detailing slows down in the winter. So I was just like, and I had really no overhead costs compared to now what I have. So I was just so scared of not making any money and losing money. So yeah, that was probably why I asked that question.
Right. And I remember I sat you down and I said, okay, Lincoln, here's where your costs come in to be very important. If a job costs you $400 to do, you can't sell it for $400 because that's what's called trading dollars. You're going to work all day to make the same amount of money you already have.
Right.
Like if you had $400 in your bank and it cost you $400 to do that job and the guy paid you $400, you get $400, right?
Exactly.
So you have to figure out your margins and stuff like that. And like, I know we have talked about this at one time or another. What do your guys cost you an hour and how does all this work?
So I pay each
And
of
I'm
my
going to put you
guys.
on the hot seat because I think it's very important for business owners to know their numbers.
Yeah, so I pay my guys $17 an hour, and then obviously we have payroll taxes. That's 1.5.
1.25.
1.25.
Yeah.
So it's 1.25. So that's roughly around 21, 22, give or take. And then my insurance, my gas to get to the jobs, and then I have all my equipment because there's wear and tear on my equipment.
Right.
So products, all that. So I think I'm right around like $40 an hour, maybe give or take on I don't know, each employee or one employee. But yeah, so $40 an hour, give or take. And then I usually just price my jobs accordingly. I sit down and think, well, how much am I going to pay my guy? How much am I going to pay both of my guys? And then I charge, like I said, I charge accordingly.
And which is kind of funny. Most people don't even take this in consideration. I tell you, keep your receipts. And you're like, why? I'm like, okay, that vacuum cleaner. Okay, each one of them guys has to have a vacuum cleaner if you're doing like pilot transport, right? You're doing 4 trucks. You got 3 guys. Each guy has a vacuum cleaner. You can't have 2 guys standing around waiting for you to done with the vacuum, right?
Right.
So you pay $100 for this vacuum, Lincoln. Keep in track of how long this vacuum is going to last you, right?
That's what I go off of.
Right. If the vacuum lasts you a day, it costs you $100 on your numbers to have a vacuum, right? So all that stuff is part of doing business. I mean, you could get really down to the nitty gritty, but we basically figured your costs out to a close, you know what I mean? You're kind of close on what we're not to the penny, I don't think, right?
No.
So,
But it gives me an understanding on where I need to be at and what I need to charge in order to run a successful
right. So what do you
business.
do if a guy says, listen, $399, you've lost your mind. You know, Billy Bob's detailing over there. He's got 3 teeth and a wife that'll come over and do it for $40. Why wouldn't I? What's so much better about you than him? He's going to do the same thing.
The quality of our services we offer. If you wanna underpay, it's anything in this world. If you want to underpay, you're gonna get cheap quality. If you pay accordingly, then you're gonna get the best bang for your buck. So, I mean, like, you don't go to Apple and you're like, oh, I want the iPhone 15 just came out. Oh, I want the iPhone 6. Like, you don't go there, and you go there for the iPhone 15 because that's what you came there for. You just pay for it. You don't, like, the one thing I've learned in my business is just pay it and get it over with. Don't pay and buy something cheap. That way you have to constantly worry about it. For example, with that Ryobi pressure washer. I mean, it's good for a starter. But as much as I was using it, it wasn't worth it. It lasted me a month and a half, and I went back and bought another one, and it lasted me like not even a month. So I was like, okay, I think it's time to buy a better pressure washer, and I ended up buying a better pressure washer, and this one has a 2-year warranty on it, and it just went out on me, I think, after 2 years. Okay, so like, it's just
Yeah, you probably got 2 seasons on that thing, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah, and that is a key point is you pay for what you get. For instance, that guy, like you see it all over the time on Facebook. This irritates the living shit out of me. Message me for auto detailing. We're the best. And I always ask them, are you insured? Are you, do you have workman's comp? Do you have this? Do you have that? They never answer. Are you registered with the state of Michigan? No. Okay. Your costs are associated with what it costs you to do business to do it the right way. If you screw up somebody's car, your insurance company will fix it.
yeah.
Or pay to fix it.
So I'm in a big detailing group chat throughout the world, mostly the United States, but there's other people in Europe and stuff. And I'm close friends with someone. I'm not going to name his name, but he has a business, and it's not a business. It's more of kind of like a hobby as of right now. But he doesn't want to pay to get insurance and get licensed. Well, he just went over to a lady's car, summertime, and the paint was flaking, and his 1800 PSI pressure washer blew the paint off of her hood. I said, "Why aren't you licensed and insured?" Well, I don't want to spend the money. I said, "You just blew that lady's paint off her car," and he was like, "Yeah, well, I refunded her the money." I said, "It's not about refunding the money. Her hood is fucked up now. Okay, so they're gonna come after you. You don't have anything to cover you. Just because you give their $400 back doesn't mean people aren't petty, okay?" So I was just like, ugh.
Right, and not to mention if the paint's flaking off, she's got bigger problems.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, and it's people want to hang out to dry nowadays. There's no doubt about it. People want your money. You doing it, it sucks. I mean, I think what was your workman's comp? It was like it was like $1,300 some dollars, right? And I know your liability. Maybe I got it backwards. It's like $1,000, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think when you did your Corporate Transparency Act, you filed your LLC, you paid your insurance, you were having a freaking canary.
Yeah.
You're like, Dad, I spent like $4,000 or something to do this shit. And I'm like, yeah, well.
But it taught me, one thing I learned about spending money when starting a business is it teaches me to work harder, because now that I spent more, I have to go and make more. So it teaches me to push myself to new limits in order to be happy and not be stressed out.
Right. Yeah. And, you had a pretty good year this year. I think this is probably your biggest year ever, right?
Yeah.
And, your stuff failed pretty much at the end of the year, and you had all the higher dollar stuff. Now, I will tell you, the one thing that's been pretty good is the old Predator frickin' generator. That thing's been a dog.
That thing kicks it.
That thing's been good, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've had that for, I've had that for 2 years now, and I have never had a problem with it not starting or nothing.
No, we just changed oil on it, and we had it was idling the one time I took it apart, and the air cleaner had fallen off.
Yeah, just popped off.
Popped off.
Other than that, the thing works great.
Yeah, the one sensor we just bypassed, and that's worked great.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny, like you brought your trailer down. Let's talk about vehicle maintenance. How do you feel about vehicle maintenance, and is it cheap? Is it expensive? What do you think about it?
I think as a mobile detailer, vehicle maintenance is a key. So, for instance, I offer maintenance plans for like monthly, bi-weekly, weekly, for interior and exterior. If you let your car sit and get dirty, it's gonna depreciate the value. So if you get a stain in a fabric seat and then you go to sell it and you never ended up cleaning it, you know damn well that dealer is gonna nitpick that, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, there's a stain on that seat. We're gonna take off $1,000 off your total price." Okay, so just being on top of your maintenance in your vehicle is just key. I mean, even for you own Garrett Auto and Truck Service. If you don't do an oil change, what happens?
Yeah, you're right.
So vehicle maintenance is a huge part.
So let's talk about the Colorado days. Oh, Colorado.
All right, actually, I'm going to start with the story real quick.
All right.
So I was at a job over in past Weberville, actually. It's an interior and exterior. I filled up my tank. I think I used like half of my Colorado tank to get there and back. But I was so happy because it was like my first big job, like mobile. I made $400 that day. So I was having the time of my life, coming back, blasting music, going down the dirt road. So I ended up getting to Clyde Road. I'm at the intersection. Our neighbor's at the other end of the intersection. I didn't know it was his truck. And I go by. He calls me as I'm going down Clyde Road. He's like, hey, is that you with the trailer? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, your tailgate dragging. I'm like, say what? He's like, yeah. So I get home, check it. The whole back of the trailer is just ripped to shit.
Oh yeah, it wore it right halfway.
Yeah,
Skin
license plate was on the dirt road. We went and found that. So I was like, great. I just made $400 that day. I was so proud of myself. And then this happens. So the most scariest thing, I knew I could get it fixed, but the most scariest thing was telling you. So we were in the barn. You were in a good mood. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm going to get my ass chewed out. I'm so screwed. So I'm like, Dad, come look at the back of the trailer. So you come back there. You're like, well, that's fucked up. I'm like, that's fucked up. I'm like, where's the yelling? He's like, so we went and got it fixed, and that was funny. That was a funny story.
Do you remember what I said to you?
No, I did not.
I said, you do realize we never have time to do it right the first time. We always have time to go back and do it the second time. I said,
Yes.
if you had just flipped the latch,
Yeah, I don't.
you could have just stopped
To this
it.
day, I feel like I flipped that latch, but I know I didn't.
Right?
Because obviously the trailer is kind of in, it was in shambles.
It did. You must have drove that bitch for a while.
Yeah, because we went and found that plate, thank God, on the dirt road, and it was ruined. That plate was screwed. It was like bent in 4 different ways, scratched up.
I felt so bad. Honestly, now I'll tell you this. I felt so bad because you sat down in the bucket and started crying. I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. You're like, yes, it is. I failed. I'm like, yeah, well, this is, I consider that like a learning, I've never shielded any of you guys. And like Mom said in the when she was on here, she's like, yeah, you yell at all the kids. You don't give a shit. You like don't discriminate. Like, that's the problem with America right now. People don't yell at their kids. They want to be your friends. I'm your friend as long as you're doing what you're supposed to. Then when you're not doing what you're supposed to, I become dad. And you know damn well I'll like tell you what's up.
Yeah.
And I'll yell at you. And you out of all the kids, though, you're such a fucker. You're always like, okay, I agree. I'm like, you don't fucking agree. You just want to say that to get me off your back. Bo and the other ones would argue. Jordan only got in trouble twice, and both times was talking to strangers. And I don't know if she still talks to strangers, but she got in trouble twice for talking to strangers. That pisses her off, so I do that. But people don't hold their kids accountable. Like, what would have happened if I said, don't worry about Lynn, go in the house, go hang out with your friends, let me fix your door? And I would have fixed your door. You would have learned nothing. You had to sit there with me with the drill holes. Remember, it was the steel was offset. We were trying to put... remember all that shit?
Yeah, that half of the steel was still on it at the top, and it was the trailer. They have those weird pattern bolts. Remember, it's not the star. It's not the other T's, but it was weird. So we had to figure out how to get those bolts out. And you being a mechanic, you have 4 different toolboxes in our garage, and you still didn't have that stupid little bit.
Yeah, and come to find out, the guy who put them in just rounded them all out. Remember that? So we couldn't. Yeah, we ended up using a chisel to get them all out, but. Yeah, like you sat there and lived the pain of what happened to fix the thing, so you'll remember that.
Right.
Like the next time you go to latch your thing for the next 10 times after that, I'm sure you flip the little...
Every time we're done with the job and I start pulling away, I tell my guys, hey, which door did you latch? Well, I latched the side door. Well, I think I latched the back. We'll go double check because I'm not having that happen to me again.
Right. So once again, you learn something. You learn by, a process. Now there's a process.
Yep.
And I know for a while there, you were doing check sheets on your detail jobs.
Yeah, we would do check sheets, and we did service agreements.
Yeah.
So the service agreements covered basically if they sign away saying that we're working on their vehicle, and then they come back and saying that we messed something up, then we're not liable because we make sure we take photos of every little dent and scratch. Not like probably every, but majority of the big scratches, big dents. We make sure we get photos of those, and then we take a video of it, and then we take a video of the inside car being dirty. That way it shows that the vehicle is still dirty and we haven't worked on it just yet. Same with if a check engine light is on in a truck, I make sure I take a video of the check engine light and then show the dirty car. That way they can't come after me.
Yeah, we went through, I was talking to a guy at Tint Swing Windows, and we were talking about you, and he's like, I think he overdoes it. Overdoes what? Well, I had a guy that owed me money for a boat, blah, 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 and, he still owes me. Well, did you have an agreement with him? Well, no, I don't need that. Well, you kind of just
where's
said,
your money?
Where's your money? So my thing is, yeah, it's not 1950 or 1960. You can't take people at their word. You kind of have to have pictures, like you said. You have to have a service agreement. This is what I'm going to do. They call it scope of work, right? Or what, repair plan, well, however you want to put it. But I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for this money. And if I do this, you need to pay me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people wanting to do appointments or book you online. I told you over and over again, you need to get a deposit. People who give you deposits are serious. People who won't give you a deposit are not serious. You look for the serious buyers and you blow off the knuckleheads. I tell you that all the time. If a guy's going to sit there and argue with you over $15, he's not your guy.
Yeah, so when I switched over to from Square, I think it was called Square Up, I switched over to Urable. Urable is focused for detailing. Squarespace or Square Up is just for general businesses, online businesses. So Urable, I sat down. I can't even recall how many questions I asked the support team in their chat. How many questions I've asked them. Just simple questions like, hey, where is this located? Hey, where is that located? And they've responded to me within 5 minutes every time. Now, if I did that on Square Up, I think I did it once. It took me 4 hours for somebody to respond. Okay, so it was just, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do Urable now. I was like, and I'm going to start taking deposits. I started taking deposits. I sat there for a day figuring out how to put the deposit onto my website through their virtual shop. It was a nightmare, but I got it figured out, and I never looked back since.
Right, and we even scrutinize when you do your stuff. You're like, Dad, come here and look at this. I'm like, ooh, I don't like the green buttons with the non-bold text in there. They're hard to see on the eyes on the phone. Like, we sit there and scrutinize stuff so it's easy for people, because I have online payment links, and I swear to you, some people are like, I don't know how to pay. Hit the pay now button.
Yeah.
Then it says click here.
It's like, you need me to wipe your ass too?
Yeah, and you're just like, I don't understand people. And that's the older generation. My generation, Generation X, they're saying the generation, Bo and Cooper's generation, I think we're 1970 something, 1980, maybe, I don't know, X. I could look it up. That doesn't matter to me. But they got into technology when it just started. Like, they started with the phones and stuff like that. Now, you guys are really getting into the stuff. You look up your YouTube stuff. You figure out a lot of your stuff on your own. Us older guys, I mean, I started out by with a Nextel BlackBerry.
Yeah.
And I remember doing the APKs, loading them. Then I went to Palm Pilot. Then I went to Palm Pilot with Windows on it, Trio. Then me and Mom were at the Apple store one day when it opened up, and I bought the first iPhone 1 for $700, and it didn't even have copy and paste on it, but it was amazing. As far as like, you could make stuff bigger with your finger. I mean, it was changed. No doubt about it. Apple changed the world. After they went to these phones, Apple changed the world. Everybody started doing kind of the same thing, and BlackBerry kind of RIM. It was Research in Motion. They're out of Canada. They kind of went by the wayside. And I'm not going to get all crazy, but how Research in Motion came into play is they were overloading the cell phone towers. They were putting so many cell phones on the towers, and these smartphones were coming out. They were such data hogs. They didn't know what to do. So what they started doing is they broke up all the little data bytes. If you send a message, they broke it up into a bunch of little bytes. When it got to the machine, it put them all together and encrypted it. And that's what ended up saving the people that were up at the top of Research in Motion from getting in trouble with the FCC and all that stuff, all the shady shit they did.
That's cool.
So I remember watching all this. I lived the BlackBerry boom, and I think Shane had BlackBerry 1 and 2 were the first two in Michigan. They were like little handhelds. So, I mean, I went through, that was like my era. You guys got to the point now where you have these badass phones.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing's got more power than my first computer.
Well, I mean, you think about it. You take that phone, it's got everything on it. There's so many different ways you can make money with just your phone.
I know.
Doing online businesses, it's all at the grasp of your fingers. You can search up anything, get an answer right away. Okay, so there should be no excuse to why kids my age aren't taking advantage of that.
Well, they're not taking advantage of. Why would you have to do anything if your mommy and daddy do it for you?
Right, right.
Like, my thing is I always tell you, hey, you want it? Congratulations, go get it.
Exactly.
You can have anything you want as long as you buy it.
Right.
I mean, so you went with your Colorado. Me and Mom you got all the kids all their cars. We got you that car, and you ran that thing for what? 8 months, 9 months, and you were just killing the truck. The trans was starting to shift funny because you're pulling around that trailer all the time, and it was killing you in gas. It was gutless, so we ended up selling it to Carvana.
Yep.
And you end up putting $20,000 down on your new truck because you got 21,000, I think you put down on your new truck, right?
Yeah, my Denali.
So now you have a Denali work truck, right, with a 3-liter diesel in it, but your fuel economy, once again, saved you a lot of money. I think you said it was like, how much miles a gallon pulling your trailer difference?
I think on the highway it was around 18 and 19, with a full tank, full 65 water tank, and then I think around city it was like 16, 15.
Right, and I know your Colorado's like 7, 8,
9 at the best on the highway. So yeah, most definitely that was a big. It saved me so much money, and
And people can say, well, diesel fuel's more than gas, and blah blah blah. Yeah,
not really when you think about it. I mean, you get more out of the truck. You get better gas mileage. Do they hold I don't know. Do they hold the same fuel in their tank usually, or no?
I'm not sure about the tank capacity, but I will tell you one thing: no vehicle is worth shit unless the dealer owns it. If you go to the dealership and they have your truck, that's the best truck around. That truck's well worth the money they're selling it. If you own it, it's the biggest piece of shit. They can't believe you're even trying to sell it to them.
Yeah.
It's a game for sure. So I see you got some questions here.
Yeah, so we already went over vehicle maintenance. How do you recommend keeping track of your income and expenses without feeling overwhelmed?
Overwhelmed or triggered or sad, or you're not safe.
Just answer the question.
So obviously QuickBooks, right?
Yep.
What do we always tell you? You got to keep what? When you spend money, you keep your receipts.
Oh yeah, yep.
Right?
Yep.
And you have to categorize it. Obviously, if you're buying gas, soaps, or anything like that, that's a write-off, right?
Yeah.
And what was overwhelmed? And then, your income. You told me that what's the name of it?
My profit margins?
No, your app. What?
Oh, you're able?
Your able flows into QuickBooks.
Correct.
So if you do an invoice there, it flows into QuickBooks, right?
Oh, I have a good point. So when I used SquareUp, I paid I think it was like $45 a month for the business plan plus the QuickBooks, and it didn't have a push system. So I would have to manually input every transaction I made or invoice from SquareUp to QuickBooks. Now, like you said, it has the push system, and it saves me money because I went with the middle plan on You're Able instead of the lower plan. I pay $50 a month, but it saves me money and time.
Yeah, because you had to pay Jordan to...
My accountant.
Your accountant.
So, but think about it. She's spending less time doing my bookwork. That's saving me money.
Right, and the way you set up your invoices and stuff, because we talked about this when you set it up, all your costs were in the right categories. So your costs and stuff you could write off are flowing into QuickBooks in the right categories.
Yeah.
So then we set up your payroll in QuickBooks. So you go in there every Tuesday or whatever day you do payroll. Your guys punch in and out and everything. You put their hours in and you do direct deposit for them too. And it also pays the IRS, the state of Michigan, and everything like that. Your 941s and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So that saved you a ton of time because how long does payroll take you?
10 minutes at most.
At the most, right? Right. And then, you're not doing these invoices. You're not having to put, how many invoices you do a week? 15, 20 cars?
Yeah.
I mean, that has to be a couple hours right there to type in.
Yeah.
I mean, you could set up stuff in QuickBooks, but why bother?
You're Able, the thing with You're Able is you can, so I have everything already put in You're Able. All my services are already put in You're Able. So literally, I don't have to write out anything. I just click it and add it to their invoice. It's that simple. I don't have to manually input it or nothing, because unless they ask for something specific, like, salt removal or whatever, then I have to type it out. But still, it saves me so much time.
Yeah, and once again, time is?
Money.
Right. All right, what's your next question?
What do you do during slow times throughout your business?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record.
Prepare to deliver.
Prepare to deliver. So what do we do when we get slow at the shops? Let's clean up. Let's make sure anything that's broken is fixed. Anything needs to be replaced, let's replace it. Let's fill up the oil tanks, get the oil filters in place, or whatever we need that we're running low on. So guess what? When the customer shows up, we are ready to deliver, right?
Yeah, and like you said, it makes your process more smoothly if you don't have something that's broken and it's already fixed. You don't have to be scrambling around trying to figure an alternative for it. You just have it and you can go right on throughout the job.
There's nothing more that pisses me off than I go somewhere to one of these shops and I'm like, hey, go ahead, do this. Oh, hey, that's been broke. How long has it been broken? Oh, it's been broken for a month. I forgot to tell you.
Perfect
What
example.
The hell?
McDonald's ice cream machines. I know everybody can relate to that. You go get a sundae on a hot summer, or not a sundae, an ice cream cone on a hot summer day, or a machine's broke. Okay, you're in the summertime. Why is it broke?
Right.
Fix it.
Right. I think sometimes they're full of shit. They just don't want to
Make it.
make it.
Yeah. Where should your profit margins be on each job?
Well, you always shoot for like 58 to 65%. I know we figure that out, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, can you go lower? Absolutely. If you want to make less money, that's just the bottom line. And there's certain situations where you could do it, but I mean, you got to kind of stay right within that area if you want to be able to pay your guys, pay your bills, and put stuff in the savings account. Because I know you talked about, I don't remember what number now. What do you put in your savings account every month?
25% of every other job.
Okay, so 25% of every other job you put into a savings account. And I remember talking to you about that. I'm like, Lincoln, you could always take it out.
Yeah.
If you need it, you could always take it back out.
That way, when I put the money into the savings account, if something does end up happening and somebody comes after my business, I get sued, whatever the case may be, I have money in my savings account that I know that they're not going to go after,
Yeah, they say that. I mean, I've heard this over and over again. If you have an LLC, a limited liability company, you should keep no money in it.
Yeah.
So you rent a house, somebody falls off the porch, they go to sue the LLC, there's no money in it. I'm not going to get into the legal aspect of it. But that's just the bottom. All right, well, thanks for coming on. This is part 1 of a 2-part series of Repair Shop Reckoning with Lincoln Brown from LCB Detailing, LLC. Thanks for being on.